Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us today. I'm Lana Payne, and I'm the National President of Unifor. And as many of you probably know, this has been a very busy weekend for our union, for our members at the St. Lawrence Seaway, and for those who work for Stellantis, the automaker here in Canada. I'm going to speak first about the tentative agreement reached with Stellantis, covering over 8,200 Unifor members. With me today is James Stewart, chair of the Master Bargaining Committee out of Stellantis and the Windsor Assembly Plant, and Vito Beato, who's vice chair of our Master Bargaining Committee out of the Brampton Assembly Plant. After a short strike throughout the night, Unifor has reached now a tentative agreement with Stellantis. The deal came about around 7 a.m. this morning, after bargaining throughout the night. And yes, as you can tell, we're all a little tired here, but also very, very proud of the work that we have done for Canadian auto workers. I want to be clear. There were many challenges in this round of bargaining, including flat-out resistance to many elements of the pattern agreement that we had previously reached with Ford Motor Company and General Motors. Stellantis came to the table aggressively, and with demands to outsource work along with other concessions. It became very clear as we approached our midnight deadline last night that there were still way too many unresolved items, including issues at local and sub-tables. We also needed to ensure strong EV transition supports for our members at Brampton Assembly Plant, given the length of their retooling period, and we did this. And by the way, this is a model for sectors and other industries who will also be going through transition. But despite very good progress, we had run out of time, and the deadline was the deadline. So we took strike action in order to get this tentative agreement across the finish line. It includes the core economic pattern on wages and pensions, investments, as well as EV transition supports achieved with Ford and General Motors. This deal, which we will present to our members at ratification meetings over the weekend, also includes a number of Stellantis-specific improvements, including on pensions, work practices, investments, and special measures for workers at Windsor Assembly, who have been navigating their own EV plant retool over the course of our negotiations. We also had extensive discussions on the joint venture battery plant in Windsor, in which Stellantis is a minority shareholder. We made our position and objectives around this plant crystal clear. These will be good unionized jobs that pay auto worker wages, and they will be Unifor members. We agreed with the company to further discussions as the plant gets up and running. This tentative agreement has been recommended by our bargaining committee from across the Stellantis chain, from assembly plants to parts depots to office, clerical, engineering, and security units, as well as our skilled trades. I'm very proud of our members at every Stellantis facility for their quick and decisive action during this brief but effective strike action. This agreement will considerably improve the living standards of every single Unifor member at Stellantis in Canada. Our goal was to achieve investments and job security for our members for the years and decades to come. The company has made written commitments to us to deliver investments of more than $3 billion in our facilities, and we have a clearer roadmap now on Windsor and Brampton assembly plants, both expected to return to 3 shifts, and also on our Etobicoke casting plant, where we will also see an increase in employment over the term of this agreement. We also, very importantly, fended off outsourcing of jobs at our parts distribution centers and the elimination of jobs in our office and engineering units. We were very, very clear to Stellantis there would be no concessions in this agreement, and protecting those office and engineering jobs became one of the last items achieved at our bargaining table this morning. Of the 3 Detroit automakers in Canada, Stellantis has the largest footprint, the biggest workforce, and the most vehicle products manufactured in this country. This new tentative agreement covers, as I've said, 8,200 Unifor members at Windsor Assembly Plant, representing locals 444, 195, and 1498, Brampton Assembly Plant, local 1285, Etobicoke Casting, local 1459, and parts distribution centers in Mississauga, local 1285, and Red Deer, local 815. In terms of next steps, we will present the details of this tentative agreement to our Stellantis leadership on Friday. Ratification meetings will be held through Saturday and Monday. Now, on to the St. Lawrence Seaway. I'm very pleased to say that we reached a tentative agreement this weekend for our 360 members at the St. Lawrence Seaway in Ontario and Quebec after a week-long strike. Our members returned to work this morning, and they will hold ratification meetings later this week. I want to thank first our bargaining committees and our members who felt compelled to take the first strike action at the Seaway in 55 years. They did not take this action lightly. The fact is, they returned to work immediately this morning after reaching this tentative agreement before concluding their ratification votes. This was a reflection of just how committed they are to getting the Seaway flowing and goods moving. They take great pride in their work, and a strike was the last thing they wanted. But they also deserve a respectful workplace, and the continued and repeated violations of the collective agreement and their conditions of work by the employer was contributing to a toxic workplace. It had to change, and this round of bargaining gave them an opportunity to address this. I'm pleased to see how they have dealt with this in this agreement. Of course, improvements to reflect the economic times workers are facing was also key to getting this agreement done this weekend. I would like to thank the federal government's conciliation and mediation services because their assistance this past weekend was invaluable. In addition, I want to thank the timely interventions of both the federal transport and labor ministers, who of course did their job to pressure the parties to get a deal at the table. I would add that the best contracts are always those negotiated at a bargaining table, and this is one of them. It's something I think that our members at the Seaway can be very proud of. Thank you, and now I'll take some questions.
Lana, the strike lasted for 7 hours, and considering the short amount of time that it went, what was happening over the course of those 7 hours from midnight to 7 a.m.?
Well, I think you can look at these guys and know no one was sleeping, because that was happening, and we were going from local table to local table, sub-table to sub-table, and our main economic table to try and get this finished off. It was a flurry, I would say. There were meetings happening simultaneously throughout this hotel all through the night, right up until we reached the final tentative agreement at 7 a.m. this morning.
So at midnight, is this what you were expecting, to be back to work at 7 a.m.?
We felt we had made good progress up to midnight. I don't want to kid anyone here. We were moving in the right direction, but there was just too much ground to cover. And I think around 11:30 or so, we knew we weren't going to get there by midnight. And the reality is sometimes employers need a little bit of push to get things done quickly. And I believe the action that our members took through the night and this morning was very helpful to getting this tentative over the finish line.
What do you think was different for Stellantis compared to Ford or GM when it comes to the negotiations?
Well, we knew, once we ratified this deal with Ford Motor Company, we knew that there were going to be challenges both with General Motors and Stellantis. General Motors, because of the demographics of their work, of their footprint in Canada, a lot of new hires, so the progression grid that we negotiated was going to be very expensive to General Motors, and indeed they did resist, and we ended up with a strike there as well. And for Stellantis, it was clear that they felt or at least this is what they said to us, that they were making the biggest investments in Canada. They were putting a battery plant here, and they had the largest footprint. So this deal was going to be extremely expensive for them, and indeed it is.
Can you talk about how this deal benefits your members when it comes to wages, when it comes to pensions?
Absolutely. Well, in the case of pensions, this is the first pension increase that our members have seen in 15 years. And they're good increases around the DB plan, the defined benefit plan, but also our members who are in a DC plan will now transfer to a defined benefit style plan, which will be much better for them in the long run. With wages, I mean, just significant overall. When you look at it, production worker, when you put in COLA and do compounding, we're looking at 19% for them over 3 years. And when we consider our skilled trades, they're going to be at 25% over 3 years. And that doesn't include the end part of our COLA, which we're estimating, that's cost of living allowance, by the way, which at the end of this agreement we figure is going to be at $1.61 an hour. So for many of our members, they will go from up to about $44.52 for a top rate production worker right now. And that's a considerable climb from where they were before ratification. And our skilled trades will go upwards of, I think, $58 an hour. So considerable increases for people. But I mean, we're in a time where these folks are building and making the profits that these companies are churning out every quarter. And every quarter they seem to do better and better. And this was really a collective agreement about trying to lift everybody up, from new hires to people who've been in the plant and they're in their mid-careers to people who are close to retirement. We had to achieve something for everybody. And given the economic times we're in, I would say to you, what we were very clear with the automakers about at the start of this bargaining is that this would have to be the best collective agreement in the history of bargaining in Canada for auto workers in order to meet the expectations of our members.
I don't know if either of these two gentlemen want to talk about how it impacts the workers in
Yeah.
Windsor or Brampton specifically, what it means for morale, what it means for overall quality of life.
Well, I can tell you, I've been in bargaining a long time. This is the best agreement, one-time agreement, that any of our members have ever seen. And there's been a lot of rhetoric because we're bargaining at the same time as UAW, but our members see it. There's improvements on the table, and Stellantis specific improvements that really benefit all of our workers. When you're looking at what's happening in the Brampton assembly plant for a retool, when you're looking at coming back to 3 shifts over the course of this collective agreement, and the problems, good problems to have that come with that, with a Etobicoke casting plant seeing a significant improvement over the next 3 years through investment and growth, and that's a plant that was going to shut down in 2008, and we've found ways to revitalize it. So I think for our members across the board, not only is their pay growing significantly, that they haven't seen. We've had hard times in auto since 2008, 2009. I think it's overdue. The companies have been profitable. We understand they're going through a transition to EV, but at the same time, the expectations of our members are high, and I think we've delivered.
Do you want to talk about transition?
Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, when we talk about EV transition, especially in our Brampton assembly plant, the pattern that was set by Ford and then matched by GM, how our members are protected through that retool is very important for us. So when we talk about the EV transition for the companies, that's a important tool for us, especially for our members at the Brampton assembly plant. Thank you.
3-year deal, right?
Yes. Yeah, the difference obviously between this one and the UAW agreement, this is a 3-year collective agreement. The UAW agreement is 4 years, 0.75 months.
Almost 5 years.
Almost 5 years.
And forgive me, your members are going to have a chance to see it between Saturday and Monday?
Yeah, there will be information flowing out through email, and then, of course, they will get their ratification booklets during ratification meetings on the weekend.
And so the deadline for them to vote is Monday?
Yeah, there are a number of different ratifications because we have a number of different facilities, so it'll be right up until, we'll have voting right up until Monday. Okay, great. Thanks so much.